I hear the dog.
He's outside, and I guess
It's
nobody
okay.
is.
I don't mind. I
I
I really
just
don't
I
mind.
just heard him. He is nobody else is at the office just yet, so he is.
Yeah, yeah. Mine, she's next to me. So she's under the desk. Good morning, David.
Good morning. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Nice to see you again.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
When I first heard your story, how you went from frustrating restroom experience at a public event to building a national franchise, it honestly stopped me in my tracks.
Well, it is still very much a fundamental thing that we do every day, and it is necessary. So why not do it with a little bit of class, right?
Love it, love it. Yeah, I've got to say, David, reimagining restrooms doesn't sound glamorous until you hear the why behind it. That blend of empathy, practicality, and leadership in something our audience needs to hear. Let's unpack that.
Certainly.
The following is a conversation with David Sauers, co founder of Royal Restrooms and a serial entrepreneur redefining customer experience through innovation in unexpected spaces. This is Pre Zero Sports Talk podcast, and I'm your host, Sid Bensalah. Today, we explore purpose driven innovation, leadership through service, and what it takes to create brands that people never forget. To support our show, please check the episode description. David, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much, Sid. I appreciate it, and I'm excited about seeing what today has to offer.
I'm looking forward for this conversation and looking forward for my audience reaction. You said this is a brand new topic. So, and as you said earlier, it's vital, it's necessary, and it's thing that we do constantly every day.
Yeah.
So, your story is one of vision, patience, and creating something meaningful in a space most people overlook. For those unfamiliar, David, with your journey, can you take us back to that moment when your daughters needed a restroom at an outdoor event and there was nothing available, and how that became the starting point of Royal Restrooms?
Yes. Well, I think we've all experienced this frustration at some point in our lives and the anxiety of thinking about going to a portable bathroom or a bathroom in general that is outside of your comfort zone, your home. And that's exactly what took place. My daughters were potty training at the time, and we were at a Shakespeare in the Park festival. And it's this wonderful setup. We were having a wonderful time, and she's like, Daddy, I have to go to the bathroom. So I take her over to a porta potty, and I've got my younger daughter Cece on my hip. And when we first entered the bathroom, it's dark, it's tight, where it's not something that you want to share and teach with your daughter about having to go to the bathroom. Next thing I know, I turn around and she's got her hands on the toilet seat. And I am just like, oh my gosh, slow down, wait a second. You don't touch this. I go into kind of panic, germaphobe mode. I end up passing CC off to a stranger outside. And as I am helping and assisting Stella to go to the bathroom, what happened was something that we've all experienced. Go into a bathroom that is not your own. And that is a very similar experience with any portable restroom that you go to. The anxiety, the stress, the feeling of kind of the unknown. Stella was potty training. She's unfamiliar with bathrooms in general. It's already a scary topic. Taking her into a portable toilet just created more tension, more question. Like, what is this? This is not what I'm used to. It's more of a primitive type setting. We've got this Shakespeare in the Art Festival that it is beautiful. It's a fun event, and this is something that just kind of brought that feeling, that experience down. And while taking her to that portable toilet, it turned into a awful experience. She ended up peeing on my leg because I was holding her up in the air so that she wouldn't touch anything.
Yeah.
Leaving that, it just kind of ruined the whole night. And from that experience, something that you don't really take a whole lot of thought on because you don't want to think about it. And it's still a very hush-hush topic that you just move on. But at that point, I looked at it and said, why? Why does it have to be like this? We can make this part better. Everybody is looking to make the next big splash or make the next big change. I'm just looking to do something that is what we are accustomed to doing. And that's going to the bathroom, in a normal setting.
What did that original moment teach you about opportunity and problem solving?
I feel like I've always had that entrepreneur spirit, kind of looking for almost like a side hustle. What can you do to make something just a little bit better? But I think I've taken things like that in my entire life. Like, how could I make this better to make it easier on my life? And that was really the solution that most people build upon in their events. They make things that are already there. They just make them a little better. And that turns into the next big thing. Phones, cars, all of these things just evolve. And that's exactly what we did with the portable toilet. We just evolved into something a little nicer in the public space.
I bet you that your experience, you are not alone. You are not alone. How many events, sporting or entertainment, concert, or even corporate events, there is out there on a yearly basis around the world, and let alone the organizers, they think about everything, and that's the last thing, or the least they will think about, And in your case, David, how did you validate that this could be a viable business?
Well, so that was the initial problem. I mean, we had all kind of naysayers, people that told you that you were crazy, that this is not gonna work, that you're gonna spend a bunch of money, no one's gonna pay for something like this. And if you listen to it long enough, you start to believe it. So we first targeted events that we knew that people were going to spend the money at, which was weddings. We knew that people like to do outdoor venues. They like to be outdoors. They like to be creative. And we felt like that was the space that we could brand or mold or introduce our product to the masses, because they would pay for it. And it worked. People, when they sat down on our trailer, they never looked at a portable toilet again. That is what they started to demand. That is what they envisioned that it should be. So by doing these weddings, even if there were a couple hundred people at a time, they were the talk of the wedding. They were the talk of, surprisingly, of that event. Going forward, those people started saying at their next concert or event, why don't you have a Royal Restroom? Why don't you have a nicer facility? And you're right, just like what you said, most people, most event organizers, they don't think of that because it's still, like you said, that hush hush. It's kind of one of those necessary evils. You have to provide it. And you want to try to do things as low cost budget as you can, because you want to provide that wow effect for the bigger name band, or for the sporting events. You want to put that flair on. Quite honestly though, more people appreciate a nice facility. They stay longer, they buy more, they drink more, because it's something that they don't have to worry about. When you have events that are large scale like that, and it is a somewhat uncomfortable situation, you tend to self-regulate some of the things that you do. You may not drink as much, you may not eat as much. Or if you, like some people I've talked to, if you've got to go to the bathroom, you leave the event and you don't come back.
Yeah. And it's so smart. Since the get-go, you started with weddings because the couple, they don't want anything to give a bad impression or bad experience to the guest. That was really smart. And David, what was the first version of Royal Restrooms like?
So our first version was, it was a mimic of our half bath. So you walked in, it was basically a 4x6 space inside. And
Was it kind of a porta cabin or?
No, it was on a trailer, but it had a full functioning,
Okay.
full functioning porcelain toilet. It had a vanity. It was climate controlled. It had a mirror, your sink, your trash can, your toiletries, but you had space. You had a locking door. So it was just like a small water closet. There wasn't anything fancy, all white, gray linoleum floor, but it was essentially a real bathroom, just on a trailer.
Why did design matter so much in an industry that had ignored completely aesthetics?
For me, it was out of my experience. I wanted to be able to take my children. I wanted to be able to feel comfortable. I wanted to have the interior light. I wanted it to have space to move around. In other words, if I had a place that I had to take my baby bag and put that on the counter, but I wanted to be able to wash my hands. I couldn't clean up after I got messy. I didn't have a way to wash your hands other than with baby wipes. And in Savannah, it's hot. I mean, it's hot and muggy. You're sweating. I wanted it to be climate controlled and comfortable so that it wouldn't be like some hot box in there. But like I said, when you provide something that is essentially normal to your daily routines, even if it is outside, people respect it, people appreciate it, and they enjoy themselves just a little bit more, even if they don't notice that's what it was. You lessen that anxiety.
Do you have any stories of clients or customers being surprised by their experience using your solution?
Oh, yes. There are numerous times. For instance, I can say that I was in a grocery store in the checkout line, and the cashier said to me, she was like, "Do you work at Royal Restrooms?" And I had my logo on it. Immediately every time that sentence is, "Oh my gosh, I hope you didn't have a bad experience." And she kind of started tearing up a little bit, and she said, "We were at the festival last weekend, and my grandmother is in a wheelchair. And she said for the first time in 20 years, she was able to enjoy herself at this event because the bathroom facility that you provided was handicap accessible. It was ADA compliant. She was able to go to the bathroom by herself. She rolled her wheelchair in. She was able to shut the door. She was able to go to the bathroom easily for the first time, she said, in 20 years at an outdoor event. And she said it was the most absolute best thing that she's ever seen. She teared up, and she walks around and asks me if she can give me a hug, because that bathroom changed her outlook, and it we changed the perspective, and we changed the viewpoint right there. But it's those attention to details and that all inclusivity that we're looking for.
Wow, fantastic. Really fantastic. Small things that quite often we don't care about that makes a hell of a difference
Yes.
to someone. Yeah, absolutely. And for our audience, if you think this topic is not relevant at all or kind of weird, trust me, it's not. I've been organizing so many major events, and I can tell you it makes a hell of a difference. And what led you to the franchise model?
So the franchise model, we originally had no intention of really expanding. I mean, we just started something because we thought that Savannah needed it. We thought that You know, we built it based on our personal needs. How it started and how it branched out was somebody went to a wedding. His name was Andy Christian. He was my first licensed franchise owner. He said, there's nothing like this in Florida. He was just like, I was at this wedding. I was so kind of awestruck, like this is crazy. And he said, I stayed at the bathroom the entire night just listening and talking with random people about this product and your business.
Wow.
And he called me up. I met him the next day at a restaurant off of Interstate 95, and we talked for about 4 or 5 hours, and he said, I want to do exactly what you're doing, but I want to do it in Florida. And I gave him the information, you know, what we did, and he said, no, I want to do it exactly the way you're doing it. I want to use the name. I think that that I can be big here, but this is also a way that we can share trailers. We can continue to share ideas. And so we licensed the name and the product. And as we grew, we realized that we needed to make sure to maintain a quality control sense and to make sure that there was a standard across the board, from the type of toilet paper we used to the cleanliness to the condition of the trailers. We had to make sure that we were setting the proper standards because this was a completely new market. It was a new product. But, you know, as you know, a bathroom is based on its cleanliness and its thoroughness and that routine. So we started building it out that way, and it took off like wildfire. We went from Florida to Washington State, back to Atlanta, Georgia. Then we went to Arizona. Then we went to California. Then we went to Texas. Then we went to Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and it just started kind of a domino effect. People really made a big change fast when the product became available, and the knowledge of a better way to go was available.
How do you train and support new franchise owners?
We have basically about a 3 or 4 day initial training method that we go through, but we have continuous ongoing training methods because at different times of the year, as you grow, your audience changes, your business model changes. You go from not just weddings, but you go to possible business remodels. You do larger scale events, not just small private festivals and weddings, but the business remodels, the military training, the different base camps for disaster relief. So all of those trainings are ongoing and continuous. The main thing that we do is from a digital brand presence. The mark Royal Restrooms is really the first to market. We kind of more or less coined the portable restroom trailer market. So our presence and overall volume is quite large in America. There are a lot of great companies out there that are a lot smaller, but we've been around for almost 22 years now, providing for thousands and thousands of weddings and events each year.
What mistakes did you learn from the early years of growth?
Mistakes are always rampant. A lot of people look at those mistakes as failures. It is a learning tool. You learn something, you try it, but the most important thing from those mistakes are you try not to make the same mistake twice, but most importantly, learn from that mistake and pivot. Don't try to force your idea if it's not working. Things can be fluid, and I think that a lot of times most people get it in their head that this is the only way to go when there are other options. It's over the mountain, through the mountain, around the mountain, under the mountain. It's not just straight through it. And, you know, maturity and wisdom and time comes with that, because so many times you try to force something through that square peg, with a round object. And over time you learn that there's other ways to do it, and be patient. Find that good support system. You're paying for your education, even if it is through mistakes.
Yeah. Tell us how Pitch Perfect TVs and Savannah bar cards came to life.
So we are always looking to be inventive in the marketplace. Royal Restrooms has been one of the leaders in the restroom industry market, but there are a lot of people that have now gotten into the restroom trailer market. Your tent rental companies, your caterers, your just general rental businesses, such as those who rent tractors and stuff, dumpsters. We're primarily more of an event services industry, kind of like how I feel like, or I like to think of us. And beverage trailers, TV trailers, office trailers, refrigeration trailers are all part of that events industry model. We've done so many different horse races, graduation parties, football parties, sporting events, where things like TVs are part of those setups. And if we're able to do that together and offer that service, I want to try to branch into that a little bit more. It gives us that extra add-on capability, that more expert, the innovator in the market, to continue to bring that wow effect. The beverage trailers is the same thing. We don't provide any of the liquor, but there's so many times where people are building a bar with a 10 by 10 tent, and they're lugging in coolers, and they're lugging in this bar, and they're standing out there. You bring something that is very aesthetically appealing. You already have refrigerators, you have a sink, you have ice chest, you have everything that kind of almost meets the health code, so that you don't have to jump through those hurdles and lug all these coolers out. But it gives that focal point of, people know what that is, they see it, and it brings that elevated experience to your event. And that's what Royal Restrooms is all about, not just the bathrooms. And that's still our primary focus, but we can do it in other parts. It doesn't change our footprint or our organization. We're still a trailer towing operation.
Yeah. These ventures, it's like an extension to the same philosophy.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully they will brand out and be as big on their own, or we'll hopefully assimilate them into Royal Restrooms.
Yeah. What's one thing people underestimate about event logistics?
Oh, I would say the overall time and budget. Putting everything together at the last minute. It's a big production when you are putting things together. All of this happens in a couple days time period, that you're serving, thousands of people. That it's a huge undertaking. You have from permits to catering to medical to the restroom facilities to staging to ticket holding to vendors. It is a large undertaking, and I think a lot of people underestimate the amount of time and energy that goes into something that may last 4 to 8 hours. I mean, you've got days worth of planning and event logistics just to put something on that lasts for a few hours. People don't realize how much goes into that.
We said earlier that the smallest detail define the overall experience, And on that, David, how do you help clients shift their mindset from cost to value?
A lot of it goes down to, education, being able to properly explain what it is that we do and the value that we have. For instance, when we talk about a daily festival, just like a food fest or a fall festival here, people are just like, oh, I can't, I'd love to have the bathrooms, but I just can't afford that. But you have put so much effort into planning this.
Yeah.
For a 6 to 8 hour event, having nice, full functioning restrooms adds 37 to 40 minutes of time that the average guest will spend. because if they've got children, it's, they're a little more concerned about it. People stay longer when there's a nicer facility. Like I said, they eat a little more, they may drink a little bit more, but you're not giving them a reason to leave. God forbid, if the reason that they left your event was because they had to go to the bathroom somewhere else, that's a big no-no. That you've worked way too hard to do that. That when you really sit back and look at it, the overall expense for the premium restrooms that we offer is not as big of a deal. But it's still changing that mindset, because they're working off of old information. They're using a budget sheet that is, who knows when it came up with. They say that restrooms are 1% of the budget, and that's that. But that's based off of porta potties. We're in a different time now. We're in a more environmentally and more sanitation conscious environment, I believe.
What makes an industry prepared for innovation, even if it looks boring? Like quite often people, they look at what you do in kind of boring or unnecessary, or something that is not needed.
I think every industry is constantly evolving. It's just one where maybe the sanitation industry was just kind of stagnant. There had not been any true innovation in a number of years. Even today's time, we're looking at, people are still looking at restroom trailers as innovation. Well, we did it 22 years ago. I wrote an article the other day. It's a company out of the UK. It's called Pequel. It is the female portable urinals. And the purpose of it is it will increase the flow from a female usability standpoint about 30-40% from a time. But it's a female urinal. That takes some maybe getting used to. It's a little more, I think, acceptable over in the European markets, where efficiency and time are a little bit more warranted. People want to get back to the action, where in America it's still very much secluded. It's more of a private thing that we do. It's not as open. But I think that innovation is, from a customer standpoint, from a usability, from a functionability standpoint, the female urinal is wonderful. I think it is a great innovation. And I think that it serves a purpose, and it solves a problem. And the solution is you're moving women faster through the bathroom, because typically it takes them a little bit longer, because men will go up, stand at a urinal, they're in and out. It's that quick thing. So if you're able to figure out a way to do that for females, you're moving that line and that traffic so much faster. So right there's a newer innovation within our industry. Whether or not it will take hold, I don't know, but it does solve a problem, and it's just how accepted will it be. We've got to change our mindset overall for that to really truly work. I think it's been widely accepted in Europe, but we'll see how it does here in America.
You are well anchored in the US. How about outside the United States?
We've actually gotten a lot of interest outside through the years, but there are so many regulations. For one, our vehicles are larger than what is traditional in European countries. Our towing capacity, our ton weights are a lot different from these trailers. Our trailers are built and set up as almost like a portable septic system, that we carry our waste in the tanks. It's set in the trailer. Most of your European markets, it is put into more of a vacuum system. It's a lighter trailer because they don't have the towing capacity. They're narrower because the roads are a little bit smaller, but you don't carry the waste in there. You vacuum it out. So it's a little more different setup and product to be used over in Europe, because they're not able to do exactly how we are able to do things here. And even in the Caribbean islands and stuff like that, there's still some of that road usage, that overall weight usage that vehicles can tow. We would love to be over outside of our country and outside of our borders and share our expertise and share our knowledge. We've just got to find the right partner to do it, and we've got to make some adjustments and changes to fit those markets and make the changes, which I think can be done. Like I said, I've traveled somewhat extensively to learn about other products in other areas, because I believe that there's not necessarily a wrong way, there's just a different way of doing things, and if you can put it all together, you can make something better.
And what makes your product different than other products in Asia or Africa or Europe or Middle East, for example?
The main thing is that holding tank. The black tank is up under the trailer, but it is on the trailer. In other words, you step up onto a platform. That weight, if you look at our standard trailer, is roughly 460 gallons. At 8 gallons, that's an extra 2,500 pounds on top of the trailer, which most vehicles can't pull that extra weight in a lot of these other countries. Africa, I would probably be worried more about the roads bouncing around and busting out tires. But it's a pretty big trailer that you've got to tow. So I think that by making things smaller and more environmentally efficient, with even though we use low flow water systems, it's still a little bit of a reach to be more widespread in some of the places like India, China, and Africa. So there's some cost in making it happen.
What surprised you most in these international markets?
Every market has its challenges. I would say one of the things that caught me off guard in like South Africa and Botswana and stuff when I was down there is I did not realize that the power went out for 12 to 14 hours out of the day. I think they solved a lot of that now, but I did not understand that they didn't have the basic power consistently all across the board. So there again, there's a lot of generator usage. There's a lot of solar, battery power. And in America, we have a lot of generators. We've got a lot of power. That is one of the logistical challenges that I would see is, sustainability to keep the trailer operational. So you would need to make sure that it is more 100% battery operated or solar operated in order to be sustainable. And from a water standpoint, you would have to somehow recycle the water, which can be done. But to keep that business sustainable like what we're used to in America might be a stretch, because it is not the norm from a mainstream or widely used.
Let's shift gear and talk about family, purpose, and faith, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah. How does your faith inform your leadership?
I'm a Catholic, raised Catholic. My family's Catholic. Kids have all gone to Catholic school, but I look at faith as a higher power, but I try to focus more from a gratitude standpoint. My wife is very, joyful, it seems, at some of the most negative or bad situations. She always has this powerful outlook of, if somebody got in a wreck, oh, you know what, it's just a fender bender where I may be, this is going to inconvenience me. I've got to pay this. I've got to go deal with insurance. My car is devalued. She's like, but you know what? No one's in the hospital. We're here to live in it. Right. It's just a car. It's just part of life.
Right.
She's got that.
Yeah.
And so the last few years, I've really tried to change my outlook to find whatever situation there is, that there is a purpose. And I believe that, God doesn't put you in these situations to things that he doesn't think that you can't handle. And by being a little more positive and trying to see the outlook, that initial stress seems to go away a little bit. Life gets a little bit easier, even if it is exhausting to try to stay positive. I think what is it? Your brain is, I don't know, 1 or 2% of your total body weight, but it uses 25% of the energy. So it's anyways. I fully believe you put it out there. You ask for it. You make that mental picture, and the world will somehow start to align with your thoughts and your grace.
Nice. Have there been moments where faith and business clashed or converged?
Yeah, I think I may not be answering your question exactly right, but I think that we tend to look at faith when something is not going right in our situation more. I think we tend to maybe, but how can you do this to me? How I've done this, how can you do that? But when things are going great, you may not give enough credit to where credit is due. But certainly when things are bad, you tend to point a finger. You try to find some kind of other explanation as to why things are happening other than what may be sitting right in front of you. You want to blame somebody else for your mistakes. You want to blame something else for the way things are going. But when things are going good, sometimes you may take all the credit when it's not really deserving.
What do you want your kids or future leaders to take away from your story?
I think that, I want my kids to be, or to see me as a good person, that I try to do the right thing. I always try to gauge, would I make my 16-year-old self proud? If I was 16 years old, would I look up to David Sauers and be like, I kind of want to be like him? He's like, that's kind of my back set, that I go for. I try to make that person proud. I don't try to make, you don't have to cut corners to do good things, and you don't have to make just one big home run to be good. You can take the baby steps and take the small journeys, but look after people, make it right. Share your wealth with others. The world will generously give back to you. And I think that I try to teach my children that to be accepting of others, to take in as much knowledge as you can while you're young, and to put that to use in the future.
Yeah, well said. Let's talk about customer experience and your brand. What is one element of customer service that never gets old?
I like to think that even though we have a customer, we are always continuing to try to earn that customer forever. In other words, just because we have somebody doesn't mean that we need to slack up. It means that we need to continue to impress and put them as a top priority. Customer relations there's not just one key element. It is from communication to history to doing things that are above and beyond at every cost.
How do you handle bad feedback or negative reviews?
I would say that my old self would be a little defensive or possibly combative, or try to understand the situation that is more beneficial to me. I have been fortunate that we have always tried to do an exceptional job in the forefront. So our negative reviews have, not to say that they haven't happened, but are very few and far between. We try to understand them from their perspective and see where we did make a mistake. How can we learn from that mistake? How can we be better about it? But there again, it is when we have gotten a bad review, like on Google or something like that. I haven't written back a article trying to, or comment back. I've reached out to the customer directly, even if it's somewhere in my office from somebody that is in Washington State or California. If they've given a bad review, the co-founder and the president of the franchise company, I'll call that person. I'll take the time out because it's important to me to understand what went wrong, what happened. I use it as a teaching tool. I may write about it in our newsletter to say, hey, this is what can happen. Or if I look at it and it's, it's not really a mistake that we made, it's something that we got maybe thrown under the bus about, I'll call my office owner and let them know that I spoke with this person, that I went above and beyond. It's something that we take personal. I don't want anybody to have a bad experience. I want everybody to have a great experience. But too often there are, and we've learned over the years that maybe what a customer requests sometimes, like let's say that they'll say, oh, I want a 3-stall. You need 2 3-stalls trailers for the size people that you've got. Well, people will call and say, oh, the trailer's dirty. There was a long line. Mm-hmm. We're the ones that may get thrown under the bus, or because it was overused, we're the ones that gets the bad reputation for it being dirty because we didn't have the proper thing. So in a lot of events now and a lot of things, we will not do what is necessarily asked just because the customer says that that's what they want. We will put in, hey, we're not going to do it. If this is all you want, we're not going to risk our reputation for one job because we want to do things right. And if you don't have the funds for it, what kind of sponsorship? How can we make it right so that we can do this? Is this a for-profit event or is this for a good cause? If it's for a good cause, hey, look, we want to be there. We want to help out the community. We want to make a difference and be impactful. So we'll do everything that we can to make sure that it's done the right way.
What's next for Royal Restrooms?
We're still mapping that out. Right now, we've just gone to a CRM system. We've just changed to a new CR system because, customer service is very important. We want to make sure that when we capture leads that we go after them and that we are do our due diligence in making sure that we do everything that we can for this customer. It also allows us, from a longevity standpoint, keeping a customer. We'll send them a happy second wedding anniversary email or a card in the mail because that's in our system now. We've got a lot of things that are going really well for us. And we've got a lot of opportunity. Like I said, like you mentioned earlier, Pitch Perfect TVs, Savannah bar carts. The more we fine-tune those products to be able to push those out to other markets, the more impactful and the more beneficial we will be as a company. But being more inclusive in the events industry will make sure that we maintain as the leader in the restroom industry.
You're listening to the Pre-Zero Sports Talk. For more conversations on sports leadership, faith, performance, and innovation from Sweden to the world, visit prezerosportstalk.com. Great. Now it's time for our lightning round.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
You ready for speedy Q&A?
Well, we'll go. My brain is a little slow right now, but espressos haven't quite hit in.
It will be fun. So, coffee, tea, or something else to start your day?
Coffee.
Coffee. Most charming place you've worked from?
Oh, most charming place I've worked. Wow. I would probably have to say that will be Bermuda.
Okay. Most unusual event your team has serviced?
Most unusual event. I would not say that it would be unusual, but highly specific. And that would be when we did the World Equestrian. We had to put bidets in every trailer, and they made our trailers into part of the tents. And when you walked into the tent, you would never, ever believe that you were in a tent.
Okay. What's always in your travel bag?
Small clippers for my beard.
I love it. What song gets you focused before a big pitch?
What song gets me focused before a big pitch? That goes back to my college years. I wouldn't necessarily say a big pitch, but it's a song by the Bee Gees, "Staying Alive."
Bee Gees, yeah. One thing you wish more young entrepreneurs understood.
Just that they need to put forth the effort with their ideas. So many people try to give excuses as to why they cannot proceed. And I see that all the time. I can't do this, or I'm stressed out about something. You can find the time to do it. You just have to refocus your energy into what it is that you want.
Mm-hmm. While on vacation, do you fully unplug or do you sneak some work?
I always sneak work. I don't know of any entrepreneur that cannot not sneak work. I go on vacation to recharge and to be creative, but I'm always on the lookout for things on how things are done differently, so that how can I bring this back and how can I make changes? Because, it may be more efficient, it may be better, or it just may be not accustomed to in America. So you always have to be thinking and evolving.
Thinking, yeah. What's your go-to Sunday ritual?
Oh, Sunday ritual is, besides going to church, it is usually home cooking some kind of breakfast. I don't normally cook breakfast at any other day during the week. It's usually a microwave or takeout from somewhere else. But on Sundays, I will try to cook pancakes or sausage or bacon or something. So my ritual will be that and my espresso at the house.
At the house, yeah, yeah. David, if you could have a dinner with a historical figure, who will it be and why?
Oh, there's so many different ones. Like I said, we just got back from London, so we've been reading up on Winston Churchill and Shakespeare. I think that I would have to go with, right now, William Shakespeare. He has coined so many different phrases and saw things from a completely different perspective, and somehow was able to do things that were quite insulting, but people were not insulted. I would love to pick his brain on how to do that, to continue to be creative in leaving a mark as a legacy.
And on that, what legacy do you hope your children will remember most?
I would like to think that my children will think of my legacy as someone who never stopped believing, who never stopped learning, but was also compassionate and was caring. That community was important to him, being just a general overall good person that was inspiring to them in their lives. That I do things because I want my children to be proud of me. I do things that I want my parents to be proud of me. So my legacy is, I don't have to have a mark. I just want that image of I am a memorable person to them in a way that is fulfilling and loving.
David, thank you very much for sharing your insights on leadership innovation and what it takes to build something meaningful in places most people ignore. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so much. I truly enjoyed this.
Thank you. And for our listeners, I leave you with a few words from Peter Drucker. The best way to predict the future is to create it. And that's exactly what David has done, with vision, persistence, and deep care for the people he serves. We want to thank you for joining our show. If you enjoyed this episode, we have more for you. You can now watch the entire episode on our YouTube and Spotify channels. While you're here, subscribe and don't forget to tap the bell. Visit prezerosportstalk.com to explore more conversations on sports, leadership, faith, performance, and innovation, from Sweden to the world. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and make a difference. We'll see you soon. Take care.